AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids anymore after she accused my girlfriend of trying to replace her. I'm 29M, my sister is 33F, and we've always had kind of a weird relationship. We grew up with a single mom who worked a ton, so I did a lot of helping out around the house. My sister, let's call her Emily, was always more of the dreamer type. She bounced between jobs, had kids pretty young. She's got 3, ages 10, 8, and 4, and somehow always expects people to pick up her slack because family helps family. I've never minded helping her occasionally. I love my nieces and nephew. They're good kids, just very energetic, and Emily tends to rely on me more than she should. For the past few years, I've been the emergency babysitter whenever she needs to work late or go out. I didn't complain too much because I knew things were tough for her financially, and honestly, I like having a relationship with the kids. But things changed when I started dating my girlfriend, Sarah, 27F. She's kind, grounded, and actually great with kids. She's a preschool teacher, so it's natural for her to know how to keep kids entertained and calm. The first time she met Emily's kids, they instantly loved her. They were showing her their toys, asking her to read them stories, and by the end of the night, they were calling her Aunt Sarah without anyone suggesting it. Emily didn't say much about it first, but I noticed she started asking me to babysit less frequently. Then, when she did ask, she'd specify just you, not Sarah. I thought it was a little odd, but I respected it. I figured maybe she just wanted to make sure her kids weren't getting too attached to someone who might not be around long term. Fast forward about 6 months into me and Sarah living together. Emily called one Friday afternoon in a panic. Her usual sitter bailed, and she had a work event that night. She begged me to watch the kids. I said sure, no problem. Sarah was home too, so she helped me get the house ready. She even made a big batch of homemade mac and cheese and got out some art supplies she uses with her preschoolers. When Emily dropped off the kids, she seemed a little cold towards Sarah, but she didn't say anything. Everything went smoothly. The kids had a great time. We played games, did crafts, and watched a movie before bedtime. The next morning, Emily came to pick them up. The kids ran to her, showing off the crafts they made with Sarah. They were bubbling with excitement, saying things like, Aunt Sarah made us mac and cheese, and she read us the funniest story. Emily's smile got tighter and tighter as they talked. She didn't thank us or say much, just gathered the kids and left quickly. That evening, I got a long text from her that honestly blew my mind. She said it was inappropriate for Sarah to insert herself into the kids' lives, that it was confusing for them to have another motherly figure, and that Sarah was overstepping boundaries. She accused Sarah of trying to replace her as their mom. I was shocked. I replied that Sarah wasn't doing anything wrong. She was just helping me take care of the kids. Emily fired back that I was allowing another woman to take over her role, and that she didn't want Sarah around her kids anymore. I told her point blank that if she wanted me to babysit, Sarah was part of the package now. We live together, and she's not going to just hide in another room because Emily's insecure. Emily got furious, saying I was choosing my girlfriend over my family, and that I had no idea what it's like to be a mom. After that, she stopped talking to me for a couple weeks. Then she texted me again, asking if I could watch the kids for a few hours last Saturday, because she really needed a break. I said, sure, but Sarah will be home. She said, then forget it. I'll find someone else. That was the last straw for me. I told her that I'm done babysitting unless she can treat both me and Sarah with basic respect. She flipped out again, saying I was abandoning her and the kids, that I was letting a woman I barely know drive a wedge between us, and that real family doesn't turn their back over petty drama. I told her that I love the kids, but I'm not going to keep walking on eggshells just because she feels threatened by someone being nice to them. She called me an asshole and said she hopes I enjoy losing my family over some girl. My mom got dragged into it too. She thinks Emily overreacted but still says I should be the bigger person because Emily's struggling and moms can get sensitive. But honestly, I think this is way beyond that. Sarah feels awful about it. She tried to reach out to Emily to clear the air, saying she never intended to make her uncomfortable, but Emily blocked her number. The kicker? A mutual friend told me that Emily's been telling people Sarah is trying to play stepmom and doesn't respect family boundaries. That's completely unfair. Sarah has done nothing but help, and now she feels guilty for just being nice. I know I could technically still watch the kids without Sarah around, but I don't think that's fair to her or to me. We're building a life together. If Emily can't accept that, that's not my problem. Part of me feels bad because I know Emily's overwhelmed and doesn't have much support. But another part of me is tired of her acting like everyone owes her something and blowing up when she doesn't get her way. Now, the kids have been asking when they'll see me and Sarah again, and Emily's apparently told them that Uncle doesn't want to babysit anymore because he's too busy. That really stung because I never wanted to think I just dropped them. I've tried to text Emily a few times to talk it out calmly, but she won't respond. I'm stuck between wanting to stand my ground and feeling like maybe I should have just kept Sarah out of it for the sake of peace. But that feels wrong too, like I'd be rewarding her for being unreasonable. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids anymore unless she can accept that my girlfriend is part of my life and will be around. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding because she uninvited my wife after rethinking the guest list. I, 33M, have been married to my wife, Lauren, 31F, for 4 years. My younger sister, Kate, 27F, got engaged last year to her fiancé, Aaron, 29M. Our families are close, and since my parents aren't very well off financially, I offered to help Kate with her wedding. She was over the moon when I told her I'd cover most of the expenses, venue, catering, flowers, and a few other things. In total, it was going to be around $18,000, which is a lot for me, but I wanted her day to be special. Kate and Lauren have always had a decent relationship. They're not best friends, but they get along. Or at least I thought they did. A few months ago, while we were all at dinner, Kate mentioned that Aaron's family was very traditional. She said they had certain expectations about the ceremony, dress code, and even how people behaved. I didn't think much of it until she started making passive-aggressive comments toward Lauren. Stuff like, maybe tone down your makeup for the wedding, Aaron's mom's kind of old-fashioned, or could you maybe wear your hair up so it's less distracting? Lauren brushed it off at first, but it clearly bothered her. For context, Lauren has a couple of small tattoos and a nose ring. She's a teacher, dresses modestly, and is one of the kindest people I know, but she has her own style. When I asked Kate about it, she said, "It's not a big deal, I just don't want Aaron's parents to judge." Fast forward to about a month ago. Kate called me, sounding nervous, and said she needed to make a tough decision. She said Aaron's parents were uncomfortable with Lauren being at the head table and suggested that maybe it would be better if she just attended as a guest. I was already annoyed, but then she said that after discussing it with Aaron's mom, she decided it would probably be best if Lauren didn't attend the wedding at all. I asked her if she was joking. She said no, she was serious, and that she didn't want drama or anyone feeling awkward. She claimed it was nothing personal and that she hoped Lauren would understand. I told her flat out that if my wife wasn't invited, then I wasn't coming either. Kate immediately started crying and said I was being unfair and that this was her special day. She said she didn't want to ruin her relationship with her future in-laws over something small. I told her uninviting my wife wasn't small, and that she couldn't expect me to bankroll a wedding my spouse was banned from. I didn't yell, but I was furious. I told her I was pulling my financial support and she needed to figure something else out. She freaked out, saying they'd already signed contracts and paid deposits. I told her I was sorry, but that wasn't my problem anymore. That night, my parents called me and begged me to reconsider. My mom said Kate was in tears, that she'd already told everyone I was paying for everything, and that if I backed out, it would humiliate her. I said it wasn't my fault she decided to disrespect my wife. My dad, who's usually quiet, said I should be the bigger person and not punish my sister for trying to please everyone. Lauren, for her part, told me she'd support whatever I decided, but she admitted the whole thing made her feel awful. She said she didn't want me to fight with my family over her, but she also didn't want me to pay for an event she was explicitly uninvited from. I stuck to my decision. The fallout was huge. Kate called me multiple times, saying she couldn't afford the wedding now and that I'd ruined everything. Her fiancé even texted me saying I'd blindsided them and put them in an impossible position. My parents said they might have to dip into their retirement savings to help her, and my mom actually said, couldn't Lauren just skip it for one day? It's not like she's being banned for life. I told her that was an insane thing to say. If they can't treat my wife with basic respect, I'm not interested in attending or paying for anything. It's been weeks now, and things are still tense. Kate's apparently downsized her wedding and is furious with me. She told some extended family members that I pulled out of paying because of my wife's ego. So now a few relatives have started messaging me saying I'm holding the wedding hostage. One cousin said, "You could have just gone without her. It's one day, not your anniversary dinner." What's making me doubt myself a bit is that Lauren keeps saying she feels guilty. She told me last night she doesn't want to be the reason my sister's wedding falls apart. She even said, maybe I could have just skipped it. It's not worth all this fighting. Hearing that made me feel torn. I hate that she feels responsible when she's the one being disrespected. To make matters worse, my mom recently told me that Aaron's family didn't mean anything by it. They just have certain values and want to avoid gossip. She said if I apologized and agreed to help again, maybe they'd reconsider letting Lauren attend the reception, but not the ceremony. That suggestion made me even angrier, like they were offering a compromise for excluding my wife from half the day. I told my mom that was insulting, and the conversation was over. Now my whole family is acting like I've committed some huge betrayal. They keep saying family should come first, and that Kate only did what she thought would keep the peace. I keep asking how banning my wife from a wedding is peaceful. Nobody seems to have a good answer. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just quietly attended and let Lauren sit it out, but then I imagine standing there pretending everything's fine while my wife's at home, excluded and miserable. That feels wrong on every level. Still, the guilt trips are working. I bet people tell me that I'll regret this forever and that I'm destroying the sibling bond. My parents barely speak to me now unless it's to ask me to reconsider. I know I'm not perfect, but I genuinely can't see how I'm the one in the wrong here. AITA for refusing to pay for or attend my sister's wedding after she uninvited my wife because of her fiancé's family's traditional values. AITA for kicking my sister and her kids out after she completely destroyed my wedding day. I-28F got married last month to my husband, Ryan, 30M. It was supposed to be one of those small but beautiful weddings, about 60 people, held at a lakeside venue my parents helped pay for. Everything was planned carefully, down to the timing of the music, seating, and even the color palette. It was honestly the most effort I've ever put into anything in my life. My older sister, Amanda, 34F, was my maid of honor. She's a single mom with 2 kids, 8M and 6F, and while she's had a rough few years, I've always done what I can to support her. I let her and her kids stay with me for a few months last year after her divorce, helped her find a new job, and loaned her money when she was short on rent. I don't resent any of that. She's my sister. But she also has this long history of making things about her, especially when she feels left out. For the wedding, Amanda insisted her kids be in the ceremony. I agreed because I thought it would make them feel included. Her son was the ring bearer, and her daughter was supposed to be a flower girl. Everything seemed fine during rehearsals, except Amanda kept commenting about how boring my dress was and how she could never pull off white with her body type. I brushed it off. Fast forward to the day of the wedding. That morning, Amanda showed up to the bridal suite late, already flustered, dragging her kids who were sticky with what looked like syrup. The hair and makeup team were trying to get everyone ready, and Amanda kept complaining that she didn't like the style the artist was doing for her, so she redid it herself, which made her 45 minutes late for photos. I was trying to stay calm, telling myself that small things go wrong at every wedding. But then came the ceremony. Right before we were supposed to walk down the aisle, Amanda's daughter had a meltdown because she didn't want to throw petals anymore. Amanda started yelling at her in front of everyone, and then suddenly burst into tears herself, saying it was too much pressure being a single mom and trying to make everything perfect. I was standing there in my dress, waiting to walk down the aisle while she sobbed loudly enough that guests turned to look. My mom and bridesmaids rushed to calm her down, but by the time we finally got started, we were 25 minutes behind schedule, and I was shaking with nerves. The ceremony went okay after that, but during the reception, things spiraled again. Apparently, Amanda decided she didn't like the seating arrangement because she wasn't sitting close enough to family. She moved her place card to a different table. That would have been fine, except she switched it with one of Ryan's relatives, his aunt, who's disabled and needed a chair with arm support. Amanda took that seat and told the aunt she could grab another one from somewhere. My husband's family was furious. Later that evening, while the photographer was taking couples' portraits near the dock, Amanda came storming over with both kids crying. She said my wedding was too adult and that there was nothing fun for her kids to do. I told her gently that it was an evening event and we'd arranged childcare options in the lounge with movies and snacks. She refused, saying she didn't trust strangers with her children and that I was being inconsiderate. Then came the part that broke me. During our first dance, I saw her phone out. I assumed she was recording, but when I looked closer, I realized she was FaceTiming someone. Later, my maid of honor's husband told me she was showing my dance to her ex-husband, loudly commenting that Ryan could learn a thing or two about romance. Everyone around her heard it. When I confronted her quietly afterward, asking her to please just enjoy the night, she went off on me. She said I was acting like a bridezilla, that I didn't understand what real problems look like, and that I was lucky my life is so easy that I can stress about table linens. I was stunned. My mom tried to mediate, but Amanda grabbed her kids and left early, taking one of the centerpieces and a bottle of champagne on her way out. I thought that was the end of it. But a few days later, I found out she'd posted a long Facebook rant about how I humiliated her and expected perfection from a struggling single mom. People from our hometown started messaging me, saying they couldn't believe I kicked my sister out of my own wedding. She wasn't technically kicked out. She left, but she framed it that way online. I stayed quiet for 2 weeks. Then, when I got back from my honeymoon, I saw that she had been trash-talking me in a family group chat too, saying I owed her for all the help she gave me as a kid and that I should have been more grateful. That was the last straw. I texted her directly and told her that until she sincerely apologized, she and her kids were not welcome in my home. I told her I loved my niece and nephew, but I couldn't keep letting her ruin major moments in my life. She replied with a voice message calling me a cruel, selfish ****H, and saying I was punishing innocent children for being born into chaos. I blocked her after that. My parents think I went too far, especially since Amanda's been struggling financially again. My mom said, "You know your sister doesn't mean the things she says when she's upset, but I can't just ignore it anymore. I can't even look at my wedding photos without remembering the constant tension she caused." Now my dad's asked if I consider letting Amanda and her kids stay with us for a while, because she's about to lose her apartment. Ryan said absolutely not, and honestly, I agree with him. We're newlyweds trying to start our lives, and I feel like every time I open the door to her drama, it swallows me whole. Still, I can't shake the guilt. Her kids didn't do anything wrong. I know if I say no, they might end up in a really bad spot. But I also know if I say yes, my home will become a constant battlefield again. My mom started crying every time we talk about it, saying she can't believe her daughters are at war. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister stay with me after she ruined my wedding and for finally setting that boundary, even if it means her kids might suffer for it. AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move in with me after she called me selfish for buying a house alone. So I, 34F, bought my first house this past spring after years of saving. I've been renting tiny apartments since college, working 2 jobs for a long time, cutting corners, skipping vacations, and saying no to pretty much every indulgence just to make this happen. It's not a mansion. It's a modest 3-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood, but it's mine, and that alone feels incredible. For context, I grew up in a family where money was always tight. My parents divorced when I was 10, and my younger sister, Anna, 31F, and I lived mostly with our mom. Our mom is wonderful, but not great with finances. Anna took after her in that department, while I took after our dad, who's practical and likes spreadsheets. I've always been the responsible one, the one who remembers bills, files taxes early, and thinks about long-term plans. Anna, on the other hand, tends to wing it. Anna had her first child, Mia, at 23, and her second, Leo, at 27. Their dad has been out of the picture for years. She's always struggled financially, but she also has a habit of making impulsive decisions, like quitting jobs without notice or buying things she can't afford because the kids deserve nice stuff. I've helped her many times, babysitting for free, paying her utility bills when she was short, lending her my car when hers broke down, even covering part of her rent once when she was about to be evicted. I never held it over her. I just wanted to help. When I bought my house, my family was thrilled, or so I thought. My mom cried, my dad sent flowers, and my friends came over for a little housewarming dinner. Anna came too, but her mood was off. She made comments like, "Wow, must be nice to have all this space for just one person," and "I can't believe you could afford this place on your own." I could never. I brushed it off because I figured she was just feeling a little jealous, and I get that. About 2 months after I moved in, Anna called me in tears. Her landlord was selling the duplex she was renting, and she had 30 days to find a new place. She said she'd been looking, but everything nearby was too expensive. Then she asked if she and the kids could move in with me just for a few months until she got back on her feet. I hesitated. I love my niece and nephew, but I also know Anna. A few months could easily turn into a year or more. I told her I needed time to think. I ran the numbers, looked at my work schedule, and honestly realized it would make my life chaotic. I work from home part of the week, and I cherish having peace and space. I finally told her that I wasn't comfortable having them move in permanently, but that I'd help her with first and last month's rent somewhere else. She completely lost it. She called me selfish, said I was hoarding space and forgetting where I came from. She accused me of thinking I was better than her because I owned a house. She said that family helps family and that I was choosing my comfort over her kids' stability. I felt awful, but I stood my ground. A few days later, my mom called, clearly after talking to Anna. Mom said Anna was staying with a friend temporarily, but still couldn't find a place she could afford. Then she said something that really stung. "Honey, you have 3 bedrooms. Couldn't you at least let them stay for a while? It's not like you need all that space." That comment lit a fire in me. I told her that I worked very hard for this house, and that having extra rooms doesn't mean I'm obligated to fill them. One of the bedrooms is my home office, and the other is for guests who leave. I said that I'd already offered financial help, and I wasn't comfortable with more. Mom sighed and said, "I just didn't raise you to turn your back on family." Since then, things have been tense. Anna's been posting cryptic things on social media. Stuff like it's always the people who have everything who forget what struggle feels like, and some people only care about square footage, not family. I've tried not to engage, but mutual friends have noticed and started asking me what's going on. One mutual friend told me I should just let them stay for a bit because it's the right thing to do. But another friend who's known Anna for years said, "Don't do it, she'll never leave." That honestly tracks with what I know. Anna's had people let her crash before, and she always overstays. The guilt, though, is eating at me. I keep thinking about my niece and nephew. They didn't ask for this. They're 11 and 7, and they're sweet kids. The idea of them feeling insecure or bouncing from couch to couch makes me feel like a monster. But at the same time, I worked so hard for this stability. I've spent years watching Anna make bad decisions and getting rescued, often by me. I finally drew a line, and now everyone's acting like I committed some kind of betrayal. I've replayed this 100 times in my head. If I let them move in, I know I'll resent Anna when she doesn't contribute, when she doesn't clean, where her kids leave toys everywhere, when she's still there 6 months later with no plan. I know myself. I'll internalize it until I explode, and then I'll be the villain anyway. My dad's been the only one backing me up. He told me, boundaries aren't cruelty, and reminded me that Anna's an adult. He even offered to help her look for cheaper rentals or subsidized housing. Anna won't talk to him now either because she thinks he's taking my side. So now, I'm sitting in my quiet little house that I love, feeling simultaneously proud and guilty. Every time I walk past the spare bedroom, I imagine Anna's face when I said no, and I start to question everything. My mom barely talks to me, Anna's furious, and I'm the family villain for protecting my peace. Part of me wants to cave just to stop the tension. But the other part, the one that remembers the years of stress, the nights I cried over bills, the constant worry, screams that I've earned the right to enjoy the home I built. Still, the guilt lingers. I don't know if drawing this boundary makes me selfish or finally sane. AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move in with me, even though I have space and can technically afford it, just because I want to live alone in the house I worked for. AITA for refusing to help my sister after she accused my wife of trapping me in a marriage. I, 34M, have been married to my wife, Clara, 33F, for 7 years. We've been together since college, built our lives from scratch, and went through our share of ups and downs. Claire's the kind of person who never asks for anything, always goes out of her way to help others, and keeps her cool even when people test her patience. Unfortunately, one of the people who's always tested that patience is my older sister, Laura, 38F. She's the golden child in our family, the one who, according to my parents, can do no wrong. Growing up, she was the straight-A student, the homecoming queen, the favorite at every family event. I was the quiet one, the dreamer, the one who just needed a little push. When Clara and I started dating, Laura immediately took issue with her. She said Clara was too serious, too ambitious, and later, that she was trying too hard to impress. At one point, she even told me she thought Clara was only with me because she wanted a stable guy. I ignored it first, chalking it up to sibling teasing. But as time went on, it became clear that Laura just didn't like Clara, for reasons she never fully admitted. When we got engaged, Laura didn't even congratulate us. Instead, she cornered me at a family gathering and said, "You're really going to marry her? You know she's been planning this since college, right?" I remember standing there, speechless, while she smirked like she just told me some profound truth. I told her she was way out of line and left. She didn't speak to me for months after that. Fast forward a few years, Clara and I are doing well. We bought a small house. We both work full-time. She's a software engineer, I'm an architect, and we recently welcomed our first child, Ava, who's now 9 months old. My parents have been wonderful grandparents. Laura, on the other hand, has only seen Ava twice. She always says she's too busy or doesn't want to intrude. 3 months ago, Laura's perfect little world came crashing down. Her husband, Dan, cheated on her with someone from his gym, and when she confronted him, he moved out. It was a brutal divorce. She has 2 kids, 10 and 7, and the whole situation's been messy. I felt bad for her, truly. Clara even sent her a message saying she was sorry for what she was going through and that if she ever needed help with the kids, she could call us. Laura never replied. Last month, my parents decided to host a family dinner to help Laura feel supported. We were invited, and I figured it would be a good opportunity to reconnect. Clara was hesitant, but agreed to go. I thought maybe we could all start fresh. Big mistake. The evening started off okay. Polite conversation, small talk. Laura looked tired, clearly stressed, and I felt genuinely sorry for her. But as the night went on, the tension grew. She kept making little comments toward Clara, things like, "It must be nice having everything go your way," or "Not everyone can just take time off for maternity leave and expect everything to be perfect when they come back." Clara kept her cool, smiling politely and trying to steer the conversation elsewhere. Then, after dessert, Laura dropped the bomb. Out of nowhere, she said, "You know, I always thought it was funny how you two got together." Clara really knew what she was doing. You trapped him at just the right time. Everyone went silent. My mom froze. My dad looked like he wanted to disappear, and Clara just blinked at her. I said, "Excuse me," and Laura shrugged like it was no big deal. She said, "Oh, come on, it's not an insult. Some women just know how to play their cards right." Clara put down her fork and said, calmly, "Laura, that's really unfair. I didn't trap anyone. Your brother and I fell in love." "That's it." Laura smirked and said, "Sure. I'm just saying not everyone gets that lucky." I saw red. I told Laura to stop disrespecting my wife. She laughed and said I was too sensitive and that Maybe Clara had a point. I do need defending. I told her she was crossing a line, grabbed Clara's hand, and we left. My parents texted later apologizing for her behavior, saying she was going through a lot. I didn't respond. A week later, Laura called me. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. She said she needed help. Dan wasn't paying child support yet. Her rent was late, and she was struggling to get her kids to and from school. She asked if I could loan her some money and maybe help out with rides until she got back on her feet. I told her, as calmly as I could, that I wasn't comfortable helping her right now. I said her comments about Clara were way out of line, and that until she could treat my wife with respect, I didn't want us involved in her personal issues. She went silent for a few seconds and then said, "So you're really going to let your wife turn you against your own sister?" That sentence lit a fuse in me. I said, "No, Laura, you did that all by yourself," and hung up. Since then, my parents have been on my case nonstop. They keep saying Laura didn't mean it, that she's just hurting, and that family should help family. My dad even offered to mediate, but I told him I'm done being the family punching bag. Clara told me she supports whatever decision I make, but I can tell she feels guilty. She's always been kind to my family, and she hates the idea that she might be the reason there's conflict. Last weekend, my mom called again. She said Laura's behind on rent and might have to move in with them, but there's not enough space for her kids. She asked if Clara and I would consider temporarily letting the kids stay with us until things settle down. I refused. I said I'm not opening my home to anyone until Laura apologizes, sincerely, not with one of her half-hearted, I didn't mean it speeches. My mom started crying, saying I was being cruel, that Laura's kids shouldn't suffer for adult issues. And that's when I started second-guessing myself. It's not the kids' fault. They've done nothing wrong. But the thought of dealing with Laura again, even indirectly, makes my stomach twist. Now, my whole family thinks I'm being heartless. My dad says I'm letting pride destroy family ties. My mom barely talks to Clara when we visit. And Laura? She sent me one last text. "You'll regret letting her control you." I haven't replied, but I keep thinking about those kids, my niece and nephew. They didn't choose any of this. And while I can't stand Laura's behavior, part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh by drawing such a hard line. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to help my sister after everything she said and did, even if it means her kids might suffer for it. AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she called me lazy for not having any of my own. I, 32F, have always been the reliable one in my family. I'm the one who remembers birthdays, organizes family dinners, helps our mom with doctor appointments, and up until recently, watched my sister's kids whenever she needed help. My sister, Emily, 35F, has 3 kids, 8, 5, and 3, and she's been a stay-at-home mom since her oldest was born. Her husband, Mike, works long hours, and I get that it's not easy for her. But lately, things have gotten tense between us. For context, I work in marketing. It's demanding, but I love it. I also live alone in a small townhouse, and I enjoy my independence. I've never wanted children, and I've been open about that since my 20s. My parents were disappointed at first, but they accepted it. Emily, however, has always had a habit of making snide comments about my lifestyle. Things like, "You'll change your mind when you meet the right guy," or "It must be nice to have all that free time." I usually just let it go because arguing feels pointless. 2 weeks ago, Emily called me in a panic. Her babysitter had canceled last minute, and she needed someone to watch the kids for the entire weekend while she and Mike went to a friend's wedding out of state. I told her I couldn't because I had a big campaign launching on Monday, and I'd be working through the weekend. She immediately started guilt-tripping me, saying, "You don't even have kids, you can work anytime, and it's just one weekend, you owe me for all the times I helped you." For the record, the last time she helped me was 5 years ago when she gave me a ride to the airport. I held firm and told her I really couldn't. She got upset but said she'd figure something out. I thought that was the end of it. Apparently not. That weekend, while I was on a Zoom call Saturday morning, I heard loud knocking at my door. I opened it to find Emily's 3 kids standing there with overnight bags, and Emily's been already pulling out of the driveway. I was completely shocked. She hadn't even texted or called. I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. I eventually got a text that said, "You'll be fine. They love their Andy." Be back Sunday night. I stood there for a minute, absolutely stunned. I ended up calling my mom, who told me to just help your sister this once, and that Emily must have been desperate. I wanted to scream. Instead, I took care of the kids because, well, they're innocent in all this. But I was furious. By Sunday night, Emily showed up around 9 p.m., acting totally casual. "See? It wasn't that bad, right?" she said. I told her I was exhausted and angry that she dumped her kids on me without my consent. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're being dramatic. You don't have real responsibilities, so why not help family?" That was it for me. I told her I wouldn't be babysitting her kids ever again. Not for an hour. Not for an emergency. She laughed and said, "Sure you will. You always cave." Well, this week she found out I was serious. She called me on Wednesday, saying she needed someone to watch the kids because one of them had a doctor's appointment and she didn't want to take all three along. I said no. She got quiet for a second and then said, "You're unbelievable. Some of us actually have to work hard. Unlike you sitting around in your cozy little apartment, doing whatever you want." I hung up on her. Later that evening, my mom called, saying Emily was in tears and that I shouldn't be so harsh. Mom said Emily was just overwhelmed and that family helps family. I asked why that rule only seems to apply to me. My mom had no answer. She just sighed and said, "You know how your sister is." That's the thing. I do know how my sister is. She's used to everyone doing things for her because she makes such a fuss otherwise. I've enabled that for years, and I'm done. Here's where things escalated. On Sunday, we had a family dinner at my parents' house. Emily showed up late, made a big show of being so tired, and then started joking about how some people in the family don't understand what hard work is. I ignored her at first, but she kept pushing. I mean, must be nice to sleep in and sip lattes while other people are raising the next generation. I finally snapped. I said, "You chose to have kids. I didn't. That doesn't make me lazy. It makes me someone who knows what kind of life she wants. Stop acting like I owe you childcare because you made different choices." The table went dead silent. Emily's eyes filled with tears, and she said, "Wow, I didn't realize how much you hate being part of this family." She grabbed her bag, told her kids they were leaving, and stormed out. My mom told me that was unnecessary and hurtful, while my dad muttered something about finally someone saying it. Now, Emily hasn't spoken to me in a week. She posted something vague on Facebook about family who turn their backs on you when you need them most, and several of her friends commented things like, "Some people just don't understand motherhood." My mom keeps asking me to apologize to keep the peace, but I don't think I did anything wrong. I love my nieces and nephew, but I'm not their backup parent. It's not like I never help. I've watched them before for a few hours, gone to their school plays, even bought school supplies when money was tight. But the expectation that I should always drop everything because I don't have kids is ridiculous. I told my mom if Emily wants help, she can hire a sitter or ask one of her friends, not me. Now half the family thinks I'm cold-hearted, while the other half thinks Emily needs a wake-up call. I honestly don't know if I crossed a line by saying what I did at dinner. I didn't intend to embarrass her, but I also refused to be guilted into giving up my boundaries. So, AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids anymore, and for calling her out in front of everyone. AITA for telling my sister she's not entitled to our parents' house, even though she sacrificed her youth for them. So I, 29F, have an older sister, Lila, 36F. We grew up in a small town, just the two of us and our parents. Our dad passed away 3 years ago, and our mom's health has been declining since. For context, Lila still lives in our childhood home while I moved out when I was 19 for college and later settled in a different city. Our family dynamic has always been complicated. Lila was the responsible one. She stayed home, helped mom with chores, and took care of dad when his health started to fail. Meanwhile, I was the ambitious one, the one who left. That word left has been used by my mom and sister more times than I can count. When I left for college, Lila didn't. She said she couldn't abandon our parents, that someone needed to stay. I admired her for that, truly. But over the years, it became this unspoken weapon she used in every disagreement. I gave up my life for this family while you ran away. Fast forward to now. Our mom was recently moved to a care home because she needs 24-hour medical supervision. Before that, Lila had been her primary caregiver for years. I contributed financially. I paid half of the care home's fees and often sent money home when Dad was alive. But Lila always made it seem like money didn't count compared to being there. Last month, after a lot of back and forth with lawyers and accountants, we learned that our parents' house, which is fully paid off, will go to both of us in equal shares. Lila was furious. She said it was completely unfair because she stayed, she took care of them, she kept the house in good shape, and she gave up her youth for this family. She expected the house to be solely hers, as some kind of reward for her sacrifices. I told her that while I respect everything she did, the house isn't just hers to claim. Our parents worked for it, and there will state clearly that it's to be split between the two of us. I even said I was open to discussing options, like she could buy out my half over time, or we could sell it and split the proceeds, but she didn't want to hear it. She said I was profiting off her servitude. Here's where things got ugly. She started yelling that I owed her my half because she never got to live her own life. That while I was out traveling, dating, and building a career, she was changing adult diapers and crying herself to sleep. She said I stole her chance to be free because I didn't stay and share the burden. I lost it a bit and told her that staying was her choice. I didn't ask her to sacrifice her life. Our parents didn't force her either. They actually begged her to apply to college back then, but she refused because she wanted to be needed. I told her it wasn't fair to punish me for making different choices. She called me selfish and accused me of acting like a soulless investor. I told her that I could have been selfish. I could have ignored the care costs entirely. But I contributed thousands of dollars every year, even when I was barely scraping by after grad school. I told her that love and sacrifice aren't transactional, and that she can't rewrite our family's history just because she feels resentful now. After that fight, she blocked me for a while. Then a week later, she texted saying she'd forgive me if I signed over my half of the house to her. I said no. She sent this long message about how I'd never understand what she went through, watching Dad die, watching Mom decline, being trapped in that house alone while I built a shiny life somewhere else. I admit that message broke me a little, because part of me knows she did go through hell. I wasn't there for the nights Mom wandered off because of her dementia. I wasn't there when Dad had his last stroke. I wasn't there when Lila had to sell her car to pay for home repairs before I could transfer the money. But I also know I didn't abandon anyone. I called every day. I sent money. I came home whenever I could. I loved our parents deeply. I just didn't live the same life she did, and that doesn't make me less of a daughter. The thing is, Mom's still alive, and she's lucid enough some days to talk about the will. Last week, during one of her good days, she told us both over a video call that she wants the house to be shared. She said, "I don't want you fighting over bricks and walls. It's supposed to keep you connected, not tear you apart." Lila got quiet, but later said Mom was just confused. Now, some relatives are taking sides. My aunt thinks Lila deserves the house because she was the good daughter. My cousin said I'm being heartless by not acknowledging Lila's sacrifice. But others have said that fairness means following the will, not rewriting it out of guilt. My boyfriend thinks I should let it go, selling my half at a discount just to make peace. But I can't shake the feeling that doing that would just validate this narrative that I owe her my life choices. It's not about money. It's about the principle that you don't get rewarded for martyrdom by taking away someone else's inheritance. Last weekend, I went back home to visit Mom, and Lila refused to let me in the house. She said it's hers now, even though legally it isn't. I ended up staying at a hotel. Mom cried when she heard, saying she never wanted us to fight like this. Part of me wonders if maybe I should just walk away, let Lila keep the house, wash my hands of the drama, and move on. But another part of me feels like doing that would erase everything I've done for our family too, like my contributions and grief would just vanish because I didn't physically live there. So here I am, torn between guilt and frustration. I know Lila sacrificed more time, but does that mean she deserves everything? She keeps saying I'm cruel and that I don't understand what she gave up. But how is that my fault? Our relationship might be beyond repair now. I want to do what's fair, but fair apparently means different things to everyone involved. So, AITA for telling my sister she's not entitled to the house even though she sacrificed her youth for our parents. AITA for refusing to help my sister-in-law after she sabotaged my career. This is going to be long, but I'll try to give all the details. I, 33F, have been married to my husband, Jake, 35M, for 8 years. We have a 5-year-old daughter, Ella, and a fairly stable life. Jake has a younger sister, Lauren, 30F, who has always been complicated. She's charismatic and fun, but there's a streak of selfishness and manipulation that's been very hard to deal with over the years. The reason I'm posting is because something happened recently that has completely strained my relationship with her, and now my husband is pressuring me to forgive and forget, but I'm not sure I can. I need an outside perspective. For context, I work in marketing and have been climbing the corporate ladder for the past 10 years. About 6 months ago, I applied for a promotion to a senior managerial position at my company. I was confident I was a top candidate because I had consistently exceeded my KPIs, led several high-profile campaigns, and had great feedback from my team. I found out last week that the job went to someone else, and not just anyone, but a candidate I had never worked with directly. I was devastated because I had poured my heart into this and had been promised by my boss that I was a front-runner. Here's where it gets messy. I learned through HR that the reason I was passed over was because of a series of negative comments made about me by someone in my inner circle. The HR rep didn't name names, but it was clear these comments were personal, not professional. I started piecing things together and realized that Lauren had been talking to my colleagues, some of whom she had befriended in a professional setting, about me in a very negative light. She apparently said that I was cutthroat, difficult to work with, and only out for myself, and that I would never make a good leader because I didn't respect others. When I confronted Lauren about it, she laughed and said, "Oh, come on, you're too sensitive. I was just giving my honest opinion." I reminded her that these comments directly influenced my career and that she had no right to interfere with my professional life. She shrugged and said, "You're overreacting. It's just a job. Chill." I was furious. I told Jake, and he was initially shocked. But when I pressed him about talking to Lauren, he said, "She's my sister. She probably didn't mean it like that. People exaggerate." I told him this wasn't exaggeration. It directly cost me a promotion. He started saying things like, "You're holding a grudge. Can't you just let it go?" Fast forward to last week. Lauren called me asking for a favor. She had just gotten a job offer for a new business venture, something small but with big potential, and she wanted me to help her market it. She explicitly asked me to use my contacts and industry knowledge to give her an advantage. I just froze. I had spent 6 months building my career, only for her to sabotage me. And now she wanted me to help her climb? I told her no firmly. I said I wasn't willing to put effort into helping someone who actively undermined me. She blew up on me, calling me vindictive and ungrateful, and saying I was making things awkward for Jake. She also started texting Jake, whining about how I was being petty. Jake got involved and told me that if I refused to help Lauren, I was being unreasonable and letting a grudge ruin family harmony. I've tried explaining my side to him, telling him she literally sabotaged my career. I even suggested a compromise. Maybe I could give her advice in writing without using my contacts, but he said that's still helping her too much, and I was punishing family for past mistakes. My parents are supportive of me, saying I have every right to refuse, but Jake's family is leaning on him, saying I need to keep the peace. I feel like I'm stuck between protecting myself and preserving family relationships. I also feel guilty because Jake keeps asking me why I can't just be the bigger person. But I don't think this is about being bigger. I think it's about boundaries and accountability. I know some people might say I should just forgive her, but the fact remains she actively interfered in my career, and now she's asking me for personal favors. That doesn't sit right with me. I want to stand my ground, but I also don't want to destroy my marriage or alienate Jake. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to help my sister-in-law after she sabotaged my career. Additional context, if it matters. I have not spoken to Lauren since I said no to helping her. She's blocked me on social media and is apparently telling mutual friends I'm horrible to her. Jake is still angry at me, although he hasn't yelled. He just keeps trying to get me to make things right. I am not opposed to reconciliation in general, but only if she acknowledges what she did and apologizes. Right now, she hasn't. I'm torn because I love my husband and want to support him in maintaining family relationships, but I also feel like I need to protect myself and my career. Have I overreacted? Am I being unreasonable? Character count, 6,473. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after what happened at my wedding. So, this whole thing is blown up to the point where my family is split down the middle. Some people think I'm the most selfish person on the planet, and others are telling me I did the right thing. But I can't stop second-guessing myself, so here goes. I, 30F, got married about 4 months ago to my husband, 32M. We've been together for 7 years, and our wedding was supposed to be a simple but elegant affair. Small guest list, nice outdoor venue, nothing over the top. My older sister Rachel, 35F, is married and has 3 kids, 8M, 6F, and 3M. Rachel is one of those people who always has a crisis. She loves her kids, but she also has a tendency to dump them on family whenever she needs me time. Over the years, I've done a lot of babysitting for her. A lot. When she went back to school, I watched the kids twice a week for free. When her husband traveled for work, I basically became his second parent. I love my nieces and nephews, but I had started pulling back recently because my own life was getting busy. When it came to wedding planning, Rachel immediately started complaining about every detail. The wedding wasn't kid-friendly enough. She didn't like the dress code. She wanted to know why her kids weren't included in the ceremony. I told her as gently as I could that we wanted an adults-only wedding. No exceptions. The venue we booked was very clear about not allowing small children because of safety issues, open water, uneven terrain, etc. And honestly, I wanted everyone to relax and have fun without worrying about chasing toddlers around. Rachel made a face, but said she'd figure something out. Fast forward to the wedding day. Everything was going smoothly until I saw Rachel show up with all 3 kids in tow. I was standing near the entrance when I saw her husband struggling with the car seats and diaper bags, and I swear my jaw almost hit the ground. I went up to her and asked what was going on, and she just said, "Oh, the babysitter canceled last minute. Don't worry, they'll be fine." I reminded her that the venue didn't allow kids, and that this wasn't just my rule, but she waved me off, saying the manager wouldn't make a scene at a wedding. I tried to stay calm, but inside I was boiling. My husband came over, and when he realized what was happening, he said we needed to talk to the venue staff. The coordinator politely, but firmly told Rachel that the kids couldn't stay. Rachel threw a fit. She accused me of humiliating her in front of the family and said that I was prioritizing some fancy rules over her children. She actually started crying, and everyone was staring. I told her she could either have her husband take the kids home or leave with them herself. In the end, her husband left with the kids, and Rachel stayed, sulking for the entire event. Even then, I tried to let it go. But after the wedding, she started telling people that I kicked her kids out and ruined her night. She made it sound like I'd banned them out of spite, not because of venue policy. My parents called me and said I should have made an exception because family comes first. I refused to apologize, though, because she put me in a terrible position and knew the rules ahead of time. Now fast forward to last month. Rachel called me and asked if I could watch her kids for a weekend while she and her husband went to a friend's wedding out of state. I said no, that I already had plans with my husband. Truthfully, I didn't want to spend another weekend doing free childcare for someone who had caused me so much stress. Rachel acted cool at first, but a few days later my mom called and said, "Rachel told me you're still holding a grudge about the wedding. You need to let it go." Apparently, Rachel was counting on me saying yes, and when I didn't, she had to cancel her plans because she couldn't find another sitter. She told the whole family I sabotaged her weekend out of revenge. When I tried to defend myself, she said, "After all the times I helped you when you were broke and needed a place to stay, this is how you repay me?" For context, I stayed with her for 2 weeks 5 years ago when my apartment flooded. I've since repaid her multiple times over, both financially and emotionally. Things came to a head last week at my mom's birthday dinner. Rachel made a snide comment about how some people think weddings are more important than family. I finally snapped and said, maybe some people should learn to respect boundaries. The room went dead silent. She started crying again, saying I was cruel and had changed since getting married. My mom said I should just apologize to keep the peace. I told them I'm done apologizing for expecting basic respect. I said that if Rachel can't accept no as an answer, that's her problem. My dad privately told me he agrees with me, but that I should just play nice for the sake of family harmony. But honestly, I feel like I've spent years playing nice while Rachel takes advantage of everyone's guilt. Since then, Rachel hasn't spoken to me directly. She's been posting these vague quotes on Facebook about fake family and people who forget who helped them rise. My mom keeps guilt-tripping me to be the bigger person and call her first. I refuse, but now I keep thinking maybe I should have just watched the kids. It wasn't like I had something huge planned, just a weekend with my husband. But part of me feels like if I'd said yes, I'd just be reinforcing her belief that I'll always cave. And maybe that's the whole point. It's been months of tension now. Family gatherings are awkward. My mom keeps saying Rachel didn't mean any harm, and that she only brought the kids because she couldn't find anyone else. But that doesn't erase the fact that she ignored my clear boundaries on what was supposed to be one of the most important days of my life. So here I am, wondering if I become the petty sister. Did I let the wedding thing cloud my judgment? Or is this just the first time I've actually stood up to her? Everyone's acting like I started a war over one babysitting request. But to me, it's years of built-up frustration finally coming to a head. AITA for refusing to babysit her kids after what she did at my wedding. AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé's child call me Annie after she moved in with us. So I, 29F, have a brother, Mark, 32M, and he's been dating his fiancée, Hannah, 30F, for about 3 years. They recently got engaged, and things have been mostly fine, but the issue began when Hannah's daughter, Lily, 7F, came to live with us temporarily. I want to clarify that I love kids in general, and I'm usually very patient, but this situation has been straining me. Here's some context. Mark and I have a very close relationship. We grew up as only children in a single-parent household, so the bond between us is strong. I've been incredibly supportive of his relationship with Hannah, and when they told me that Lily would be staying with us for a while Hannah sorted out her living situation, I agreed to help. I had no idea what temporarily would mean. It's been 3 months now, and Lily's still living here full-time. When Lily first moved in, I tried to be welcoming. I bought some toys and snacks she liked, set up a little space for her, and attempted to make her feel comfortable. At first, it went okay, but then she started calling me Annie. I was caught off guard because, technically, I'm not her aunt. I've never met Hannah before she started dating Mark, and legally and biologically, I have no relation to Lily. When I politely told her, hey, sweetie, I'm not really your aunt, so maybe we can just stick with my name or something else, she looked hurt, and Hannah shrugged it off, saying, oh, she just thinks of you as family. It's cute. After that, Lily started insisting on calling me and my name. She would correct me every time I tried to redirect her politely, and eventually, I started feeling cornered. I told Hannah and Mark that it made me uncomfortable and that I didn't want her to call me that because it felt like an assumption about our relationship that I wasn't ready to take on. I also mentioned that I didn't want to be responsible for disciplining her or acting as a parent figure because I already have my life, work, and social obligations. Mark initially understood, but Hannah got defensive. She said that since Lily is living here, calling me Andy would make her feel like part of the family. She also argued that it's just a name and that I'm overreacting. Mark said he'd talk to Lily gently about using my name instead, but that conversation didn't go well. Lily ended up crying, accusing me of not liking her, and calling me mean. This escalated quickly. Hannah and Mark started pressuring me more. They said I was being cold and not welcoming enough because I wouldn't let Lily call me Annie. Hannah even said, you're going to be part of her life, whether you like it or not, so you might as well embrace it. I explained again that I don't want the aunt label, and I don't want the responsibilities or expectations that come with it. I also pointed out that I never signed up to live with a child permanently, and I have other priorities in my life. Things reached a breaking point last week. Lily had a meltdown because I refused to answer to Aunt my name at breakfast. She screamed and threw her cereal on the floor. I lost my temper and told her to calm down and that I wasn't her aunt, period. Mark came home and was furious, saying I humiliated Lily in front of him. Hannah joined in, saying I'm alienating Lily and creating a hostile environment. I argued back that I'm not comfortable with this forced familial role and that it's unfair to pressure me into it. The conversation devolved into everyone yelling, and I eventually left the room. Since then, Mark has been avoiding me, and Hannah keeps giving me passive-aggressive comments like, "Don't expect Lily to remember you when she's older if you don't act like family now." I've tried to explain that I'm still supportive of their relationship and that I love Mark, but I cannot pretend to be an aunt to a child I didn't raise and don't have a natural bond with yet. I feel stuck because I genuinely care about Mark, and I don't want to damage our relationship, but I also feel like my boundaries are being completely ignored. I'm trying to be respectful to Lily and to Hannah, but at the same time, I don't think it's wrong to refuse a title that implies a relationship I haven't earned or agreed to. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiance's daughter call me Annie while she's living with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister host a big family brunch at my house, even though she claims it's her tradition. So, here's the background. I, 34F, live in a fairly small townhouse with my partner, 36M, and our 3-year-old daughter. My sister, Emily, 30F, has always been the planner in the family. She loves organizing events, holidays, and random gatherings, and honestly, she's very good at it. Over the years, it has become something of a pattern that whenever she wants to host a family brunch or holiday, she assumes she can do it anywhere she likes, which usually means my house. This has caused tension before, but I've tried to navigate it politely. Emily called me about 3 weeks ago and said she wanted to host a big family brunch at my house this year. I asked her what she meant by big, and she told me she wanted to invite our entire extended family, around 30 people, including cousins, their kids, parents, and some of our neighbors who have kind of drifted into the family circle. She said she would bring the food and handle everything. So I figured, okay, maybe it wouldn't be too bad. Then she dropped the real kicker. She wanted the brunch at 11 a.m., and she'd arrive at 8 a.m. to set everything up. I explained that my townhouse is not huge. We have one small living area and a tiny dining table. Adding 30 people would mean people would be sitting in the kitchen, the living room, and probably standing in hallways. Emily brushed it off, saying, "Oh, it'll be fine. Everyone will just squeeze together. You always make such a fuss." I reminded her that we also have a toddler and a dog, and our house isn't really childproof for that many people. She said our daughter could just stay in her room during the brunch. That felt dismissive to me because she's a part of our daily life, and expecting her to just be locked away so 30 adults and kids can eat breakfast felt wrong. I tried suggesting alternative locations, like a local park, a community hall, or even her apartment, but she insisted that my house was the family home and that hosting it there was just tradition. I reminded her that there is no actual tradition of hosting brunch at my house. She just kind of always assumes it. She argued that she's done so much for everyone, and that it's my turn to let her host. I felt like that was manipulative because hosting something in someone else's house isn't really about fairness. It's about space and comfort, which my house doesn't have for that many people. After a few back and forths, I told her that, unfortunately, we couldn't host the brunch at our place. I offered to help her brainstorm locations and even offered to come early and help set up a smaller event somewhere else. But she was not satisfied. She accused me of being controlling and said I was destroying the family tradition and making everyone hate her. I was taken aback because, first, I didn't think this was a tradition, and second, it felt like she was putting the blame for her disappointment entirely on me. The next day, she started texting our parents, saying I was refusing to host a normal family event and making them feel like I didn't want to see the family. My parents texted me asking if I was okay and what was happening. I explained everything calmly, emphasizing the size of our home and our daughter's needs, and they were supportive, saying I shouldn't feel guilty for saying no. But Emily kept escalating things, posting on social media vague messages about selfish family members and someone who only cares about themselves. Things got worse when my cousin Sarah, 32F, called me. She's always been close to Emily and wanted to know why she was ignoring our family's needs. I explained again that our house simply isn't equipped for 30 people and that I don't think it's unreasonable to say no. Sarah was polite, but said, "Well, Emily feels like you're punishing her for nothing. It's a big deal to her." I felt torn because I do understand wanting to host and be part of family events, but punishing someone just because they can't fit 30 people into a small townhouse doesn't make sense to me. A few days later, Emily called me crying and said that our entire extended family is now upset with me because I won't let her host brunch at our house. She insisted I should compromise and suggested we host only 15 people instead of 30. I told her that even 15 would be tight, and I didn't want to deal with the stress of everyone crowding my living space, our toddler being overstimulated, and the mess afterward. I offered again to host a smaller gathering, like 4 to 6 family members, but she said that's not enough and not the tradition. She even mentioned she would just host somewhere else and make it happen without me if I didn't agree, which felt manipulative. After all this, our communication has broken down. I'm avoiding calls from her and responding minimally to texts. I feel bad that she's upset, but I also feel like my boundaries are completely reasonable. My partner supports me 100%, saying that hosting 30 people in a small house with a toddler and dog is unreasonable and that I have a right to say no. However, some extended family members have subtly hinted that I'm being too rigid and not a team player. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister host a big family brunch at my house, even though she claims it's her tradition. The story is 6,460 characters long. If you want, I can also draft an even longer version closer to 7,000 characters with more family drama, including the fallout from social media and how neighbors got involved. This would make it feel even more like a viral Reddit post. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her dog to my wedding because of past issues with pets? So, this is a bit long, but I need to give the full context. I, 28F, have been planning my wedding with my fiancée, 30M, for about a year now. We decided early on that it would be a relatively small and intimate ceremony with about 80 guests, mostly family and close friends. One thing that was very important to both of us was that we keep the day as stress-free as possible. That meant no extra surprises, no last-minute changes, and definitely no pets. My sister, Sarah, 26F, has always been very attached to her dog, Baxter. Baxter is a medium-sized mixed breed that she adopted a few years ago. Sarah has been clear in the past that she doesn't like leaving him alone, and she often expects people to accommodate him in social situations. Normally, I don't mind. Baxter is cute and generally well-behaved, but he has a history of being aggressive with strangers if he's not familiar with them. We've had situations at family gatherings where he's barked, snapped, or even bitten someone, and while no one was seriously hurt, it's left a lot of people wary. When I first sent out the save the dates, I didn't mention anything about pets because we were assuming it would be an adult-only, human-only wedding. A couple of weeks ago, Sarah approached me and said she wanted to bring Baxter. She said, "He's part of the family, and I don't see why he shouldn't be at your wedding. Plus, he'll make everyone happy." I was taken aback because I had explicitly stated to her multiple times that we wanted a no-pets wedding. I tried to explain gently that while I love Baxter, we've had past incidents with him, and we are hiring a professional wedding planner who specializes in events where safety and logistics are key. She said she understood, but then immediately started pressuring me about how unfair it was and how everyone else's dogs get to come to their weddings. I tried to compromise by offering that she could have Baxter at the rehearsal dinner, which is outside and has fewer people, but she refused. She insisted that if Baxter couldn't be at the wedding, she wouldn't come. I told her that was not acceptable. The wedding is one of the most important days of my life, and I could not risk any potential accidents, allergies, or disruption. Things escalated when she started posting passive-aggressive messages on social media about me being selfish and hating dogs. She's also started messaging other family members to get them to side with her, painting me as the villain. My parents are torn because they love Baxter too, but they also understand my reasoning. They told me they would support my decision either way, but Sarah keeps bringing it up in every conversation, sometimes crying or getting visibly upset, which is really stressful. Yesterday, she sent me a long text essentially giving me an ultimatum. She said, "If Baxter can't be there, I will not be attending your wedding, and I will never forgive you for prioritizing a dog over family." I read it twice to make sure I understood. I responded politely, reiterating that the decision was final, but I also explained my reasons in detail: safety, allergies, and the fact that this is one of the few events where I want everything to go smoothly without unnecessary complications. After that, she hasn't responded directly, but has been posting cryptic stories and messages implying that I'm cruel and inconsiderate. Some of my mutual friends have started messaging me privately asking if I'm really being unfair, which is making me second-guess myself. On one hand, I feel like she's being completely unreasonable by threatening to skip my wedding over a dog, especially when I offered her other options. On the other hand, I feel like maybe I'm being too rigid and should find a way to make her happy. My fiancé fully supports me, saying that inviting pets to a formal wedding with a lot of unknown guests is not practical, and we both agree that the day should be about us and not anyone else's expectations. I've also spoken to the venue, and they confirmed that they don't allow animals inside except for service animals, so legally, Baxter wouldn't be able to attend anyway. Now, the issue is that Sarah has started telling other family members that I'm choosing a stuffy, pet-free wedding over family, and a few relatives are quietly hinting that I should just let her bring the dog so she'll be happy. I really don't want to back down because it feels like giving in would reward her manipulative behavior, but I'm also worried about the tension this is causing with the rest of the family. I've also noticed some people online saying that I should just compromise and let her sneak Baxter in, but I feel like that's a slippery slope. If she disobeys rules for one wedding, what happens with future events? I want to set a boundary without turning my wedding into a battlefield. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her dog to my wedding, even though she's threatening not to come? I feel like I'm prioritizing the wedding itself, safety, and my peace of mind, but some people are saying I'm being heartless toward my sister. I just want my wedding to be a happy, stress-free day, not a negotiation over pets. But I also don't want to permanently damage my relationship with her. I'm trying to find a balance between being firm and being empathetic, and right now it's really hard because it feels like no matter what I do, I'm being painted as the villain. The deadline for RSVPs is coming up, and I'm worried she might actually skip the wedding entirely. I've asked our wedding planner to help me find other ways for Sarah to feel included, like special readings or a slideshow featuring her and Baxter, but I don't know if that will be enough. So, Reddit, am I the asshole here for putting my foot down and saying no dogs at my wedding, even though it's causing a huge fight with my sister? Character count, 6,436. AITA for ruining my sister's wedding because I wouldn't lie about my child? I, 32F, have a 6-year-old daughter, Emma. My daughter's father, Ben, and I were together for a few years, but things ended badly, and he's not involved in her life at all. That's just context for you to understand why this is a sensitive topic. My younger sister, Lily, 28F, got engaged last year, and her wedding planning has been consuming her life ever since. She's always been a bit high-strung and controlling, and our family tends to tiptoe around her to avoid conflict. When she announced her engagement, I was genuinely happy for her, but I also knew that her perfectionism could make for some tense family interactions. The problem started when the guest list came out. Lily and her fiancé, Mark, were expecting a very ideal wedding, which meant very few children and no guests who could potentially cause drama. I knew that including Emma might be a point of tension, but I naively assumed it wouldn't be an issue since I'm usually pretty low conflict with my family. A month before the wedding, I got a message from Lily asking me to be honest about whether Emma would attend. I told her that of course Emma would attend. She's my daughter, and she's very important to me. That's when things started getting weird. Lily said she was worried about appearances because some of Mark's more conservative relatives might not be comfortable with children being around. She asked me if I could maybe not bring Emma, or at least not announce she was my daughter. I was stunned. I asked her to clarify, and and she basically implied that if I wanted to be part of the wedding, I should pretend Emma wasn't my child. I refused immediately. I tried to explain that Emma is my daughter, my responsibility, and my life, and I'm not going to pretend she doesn't exist just to make some relatives more comfortable. Lily got very defensive and said that I was being dramatic and overreacting because it was just a small request to preserve appearances. Over the next couple of weeks, she repeatedly asked me to compromise. She offered to let Emma attend as long as she stayed at a kids-only area, didn't interact with certain relatives, and didn't sit at the main tables. I said no. I tried reasoning with her that Emma deserves to be treated like any other guest, and if that was an issue, I would rather not attend than have my daughter treated like a second-class citizen. The day of the wedding arrived, and I decided I couldn't just silently comply with her demands. I brought Emma, and when we arrived, Lily looked furious. I tried to stay calm and just enjoy the day, but around the middle of the ceremony, a few relatives started whispering to Lily about the child being there, which caused a scene. Lily confronted me during the reception, in front of a few tables, and demanded that I explain why I brought Emma when she had specifically asked me not to. I calmly said, "Because she's my daughter, and I won't lie about her existence. She's part of my life, and she's part of this family too." The argument escalated. Lily accused me of ruining her wedding, ignoring her wishes, and being selfish. Some relatives tried to mediate, but Lily refused to calm down. She stormed off and spent the rest of the evening avoiding both me and Emma. Some family members later told me that she cried in the bridal suite and said the wedding was tainted because I had brought Emma. The aftermath has been rough. Lily hasn't spoken to me since the wedding. Our parents are upset too, saying that I should have compromised for the sake of peace. Some of Mark's relatives, who I barely know, have made passive-aggressive comments about how awkward it was to have a child at the event. Emma is confused because she loved being part of the celebration, dancing and laughing, but now she senses tension every time we talk about Lily. I feel like I did the right thing. I couldn't lie about my child or make her feel unwelcome in my own family. I also feel like Lily's reaction was extreme and unfair. On the other hand, I understand that weddings are a big deal, and I can see why she wanted a very specific kind of event. I never intended to cause drama. I just wanted to be honest and include my daughter. Since the wedding, there's been zero communication from Lily, and our parents are pressuring me to apologize, but I honestly don't feel like I did anything wrong. Emma deserves to be recognized as part of the family, and I can't erase her just to make someone else comfortable. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to hide my child at my sister's wedding, even though it caused a huge argument and her special day to be stressful. Character count, 6,548 if you want. I can create another one that's even longer and with a twist ending. Those tend to blow up on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after discovering a huge secret about her fiancé. So, some background. I, 29F, am extremely close with my family, particularly my younger sister, Emily, 26F. Growing up, we were inseparable, and even now, we talk daily. Our parents live out of state, so it's just been the three of us for years, and we've always shared pretty much everything. I'm generally a very trusting person, and I've always assumed the same about the people my family dates. Emily met her fiancé, Alex, 27M, about a year ago. He seemed perfect on the surface, charming, funny, well-employed, and clearly very affectionate toward her. From the beginning, he made a great impression on our parents and myself. We all thought he was the one after just a few months. Emily and Alex got engaged around 9 months into their relationship, and the wedding planning began almost immediately. Here's where things get complicated. I've always been the type to dig a little when someone new enters our family circle. Not in a nosy way, but because I like knowing who I'm letting into our lives. I never want to be blind to red flags. So, when Alex first started being a major part of Emily's life, I did some casual background research. Social media, news mentions, basic public record stuff. Nothing extreme, just normal curiosity. At first, nothing stood out. Then, about 2 months ago, I came across something odd while browsing a local news archive. I found a news article about a man named Alex M., who had been involved in a pretty high-profile insurance fraud case about 5 years ago. He had supposedly been fined and given probation, but what caught my attention was how similar the description of the person in the article was to Emily's fiancé. Same age, same city, same occupation listed. The problem is, the article didn't mention his current whereabouts, and the picture quality was poor, but I felt uneasy. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I kept digging. I checked professional licenses and online court records and found a record that aligned almost exactly with the Alex Emily is dating. Full name matches, birth year matches, and the case number from the fraud case appears linked to him. At this point, I was nearly certain that Alex had a serious criminal past that he had completely hidden from Emily and the family. I debated whether to tell Emily. On one hand, I didn't want to ruin her happiness over something that might not even be true. On the other hand, if this was real and she married him without knowing, it could have long-term consequences, financial, legal, and emotional. After days of agonizing over it, I confronted Alex privately. I showed him the information I had found and asked for an explanation. He panicked. He admitted it was him. He told me it was a mistake from years ago, that he had paid his dues, and that he was a completely different person now. He begged me not to tell Emily, saying she would never forgive me for digging into his past, and that it was irrelevant to their future. I was stuck. I couldn't bring myself to lie to Emily, but I also didn't want to destroy her relationship over something that, technically, he had already been punished for. I decided to confront Emily gently, without being accusatory, and just ask her if she knew about Alex's past. That was last weekend. Her reaction was explosive. She cried, yelled, and accused me of trying to sabotage her relationship. She insisted that everyone makes mistakes, that Alex had changed, and that I had no right to dig into someone's personal history. She told me I had to either support her wedding or stay out of her life entirely. She also said that if I skipped the wedding, it would permanently damage our relationship. I tried to explain that it wasn't about judgment or punishment. It was about honesty and transparency. She doesn't want to hear it. Our parents are torn. They get that I was trying to protect her, but they also feel that this is none of my business and that Emily is an adult who can make her own choices. Now, the wedding is in 2 weeks. I have told Emily that I cannot in good conscience attend without acknowledging what I know, and she has said that if I don't show up, our relationship will be over. I feel trapped. I love my sister, but I also feel like I can't just ignore something this serious. I've tried talking to friends and coworkers, but opinions are all over the place. Some say I'm the bad guy for not supporting my sister's big day, while others say I'm in the right for being honest and protective. I can't stop thinking about it. On one hand, she's happy, in love, and probably willing to forgive him. On the other hand, I know Alex isn't being fully honest, and I can't pretend that doesn't matter. I feel like if I go to the wedding, I'd be lying by omission, and if I don't go, I might lose one of the most important relationships in my life. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after discovering her fiancé's hidden criminal past. AITA for refusing to let my younger sister's fiancé move in with me temporarily, even though everyone else thinks I'm being unreasonable. So, this is a long one, but I really need some outside perspective because my family is blowing this way out of proportion, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm actually the jerk here. I, 32M, live in a pretty modest 2-bedroom apartment by myself. I moved to this city for work a few years ago, and I've been living alone ever since. I've got my routine, my space, and honestly, I like being able to come home and not have to worry about anyone else's schedule or habits. My younger sister, Jess, 27F, got engaged a few months ago to a guy named Mike, 30M. I met Mike a handful of times, and he seems nice enough. Polite, normal, no red flags as far as I could tell. But the issue started a couple of weeks ago when Jess called me in a panic. Mike had apparently gotten into a fight with his roommate, and now he had nowhere to stay for a couple of weeks. She called me asking if he could crash at my place temporarily. At first, I hesitated. I explained that my apartment is really small, and I'm used to living alone. I told her that it might be uncomfortable for all of us. Jess seemed to think that because it's just for a week or two, it wouldn't be a big deal. I tried to be reasonable, but the more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt. I've lived with roommates before, and it never went smoothly. People leave dishes out, hog the bathroom, get into your stuff. It's just not something I enjoy. I have a pretty strict work-from-home schedule, and I didn't want someone else's presence interfering with my daily life. So I told Jess that I couldn't accommodate Mike. I said I could help in other ways, like letting him crash at a nearby cheap motel I found, or helping him network to find a short-term sublet, but my apartment was off-limits. She immediately got upset and started guilt-tripping me. She said, "It's just a few weeks, you're my brother. You should help your future brother-in-law out." I tried to stay calm and explain my reasons again, but she kept going. Then my mom got involved. She called me crying, saying I was being selfish and that family should support each other. My dad called too, saying I needed to grow up and start thinking about family before comfort. I stood my ground because, honestly, the thought of having someone else in my tiny apartment for weeks stressed me out more than I could handle. I also feel like this sets a precedent. I don't want Mike to think he can just drop by any time he has a problem and expect to live with me. Things got worse when Jess sent me a long message listing all the ways she thinks I'm being cruel, that I'm punishing Mike for a fight that isn't even his fault, that I don't care about family, and that I never let anyone in your life. She even said she might reconsider the wedding if Mike doesn't feel welcome in the family. That felt manipulative, and honestly, it pissed me off. I responded politely but firmly, reiterating that I couldn't host him, but I was willing to help in other ways. The night after that, just called my roommate. I don't actually have one, but I guess she assumed I could make it work, and asked them to convince me. Then she posted a passive-aggressive story on social media about some family members being less family-oriented than others, and tagged me, which my friends saw. A few of them actually messaged me asking if I was going to let him stay, implying that I was being unreasonable. Here's the kicker. Mike himself actually reached out to me. He said he completely understood my decision and that he didn't want to make me uncomfortable. He even thanked me for being honest rather than pretending it was okay. That gave me some relief, but my family's reaction has been relentless. My mom keeps texting me, my sister keeps calling, and I feel like I'm being painted as the villain. I'm starting to question myself because everyone is telling me I'm selfish, but my gut still says that I have the right to say no to having someone else live in my space temporarily. I'm all for helping them, but I also have boundaries and a life that requires my own space and peace of mind. I even offered concrete alternatives, hotels, friends who might have rooms, short-term rentals, but it seems like nothing is enough. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay with me temporarily, even though he's in a tough spot. I feel like I'm standing up for my own mental health and boundaries, but my family insists I'm being unreasonable and selfish. I really want honest opinions because I'm stressed and feel like I'm being unfairly labeled the villain here. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé take over planning our family reunion and causing a huge fight. I, 33F, come from a fairly close-knit family. Every year, we do a big family reunion, usually in early August, and it's a multi-day event with games, cooking competitions, and sometimes even a mini talent show. Traditionally, my parents have handled the organization, but since they're getting older, the responsibility has been slowly shifting to me and my older sister, Claire, 35F. This year, my parents were very clear that they wanted us to take the lead, but they also stressed that it should be a collaborative effort between the two of us. Now, here's the issue. Claire recently got engaged to Ben, 36M, and ever since, he's been inserting himself into every family event planning conversation. Ben is a nice guy, I'll give him that, but he has this very rigid way of doing things and insists that everyone should follow his plan. He's extremely controlling and doesn't take well to anyone questioning him. Last year, he tried to help with my nephew's birthday party, and it ended up being a disaster because he changed the schedule, ignored people's preferences, and somehow made the party less fun for the kids. Fast forward to this year. Claire casually mentioned at dinner one evening that Ben wanted to help with the reunion. I told her I appreciated his willingness, but that I didn't think it was a good idea for him to take over planning, as it's traditionally been a family-driven effort, and we all like having input. Claire said I was being paranoid and unreasonable, but eventually she agreed to let me handle the logistics while Ben helped with minor things like ordering supplies. About a month later, I sent out a group email to family members asking for RSVPs and preferences for activities. Within 24 hours, I started receiving multiple texts from Claire saying that Ben had made a few suggestions and that I should implement them. I politely replied that I wanted to keep the planning in line with what our family is used to and that major changes would need to be discussed with me and my parents first. Claire responded angrily that I was excluding him and that he has great ideas that I should consider. The tension escalated when I found out that Ben had booked a band and a magician without telling anyone. They were supposed to perform at the evening portion of the reunion, which is usually low-key, but he booked 2 high-energy acts back-to-back. I called Claire and asked why he had done this without consulting me. She said, "I told him surprise everyone, so you can't be mad." I explained that surprises are fine for small things, but not for events that involve 50-plus people who have traditions and expectations. She accused me of being controlling and disrespecting her fiancé. At this point, I decided to step up and make it very clear. Ben would not be in charge of the reunion. I told Claire that if he wanted to help, he could do minor tasks like setting up chairs or helping with food prep, but the actual planning decisions would be mine and my parents. I thought this would be a reasonable compromise. Claire blew up. She sent me a 2-page text saying that I was ruining her relationship, that I was selfish, and that I was treating Ben like a child. She even said that if I didn't let him take over, she might not come to the reunion at all. Feeling frustrated, I reached out to my parents to ask for advice. They were very supportive and told me that it's important to maintain the family tradition and that my plan to limit Ben's involvement was fair. They emphasized that the reunion is about the family, not just about one couple's preferences. I then tried a final compromise. I offered to let Ben suggest 1 or 2 activities, as long as the rest followed the usual format. Claire agreed, but as soon as I reviewed his suggestions, I realized they were completely impractical. One idea was a high-stakes poker tournament for the kids, ages 8 to 12, and the other was a scavenger hunt that would take place over several miles, which would exclude elderly family members. I explained why these wouldn't work, but Claire interpreted this as me rejecting everything he brings to the table. The night before the reunion, I had a huge argument with Claire. She accused me of being petty and controlling. I pointed out that this event is about family bonding, not letting Ben impose his vision. I also reminded her that last year's birthday party fiasco was directly because Ben ignored everyone's input. She ended the call by saying she might not come and that I was choosing my parents over my sister. The reunion itself went off mostly smoothly. We stuck to the traditional schedule, and most family members were happy. Ben did help with setup and food, but he was noticeably bitter, and Claire was distant the entire weekend. A few extended family members asked me privately if I had ruined the reunion for Claire, but everyone else seemed to enjoy themselves. Claire has since barely spoken to me, and she's posted vague Instagram stories about family drama without specifying what happened. Ben hasn't reached out since the reunion, and my parents are tired of the tension but supportive of me maintaining the traditions. I genuinely feel like I did the right thing. The reunion is a long-standing family event, and allowing someone who doesn't understand our dynamics to take over planning seemed reckless. At the same time, I understand that from Claire's perspective, I might have come off as controlling or dismissive of her fiancé. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé take over planning the family reunion and standing firm, even though it caused a major fight. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.